Love
Okay,
it.
let's go.
So can you please give me a quick overview of who you are and what you do at Clean Up Australia?
Yeah, so I'm Pip Kiernan. I'm the chairman of Clean Up Australia, and the charity was founded by my father over 30 years ago, Ian Kiernan. And he was a builder and a solo yachtsman and was sailing around the world in the BOC solo race in 1987. And he was just horrified by the pollution that he found in the oceans of the world during that journey, particularly in the Sargasso Sea, which is meant to be one of the most pristine, beautiful parts of the world. And it was just clogged with plastic waste. So he came back to Australia and decided that he would do something about it. And being a very practical man, a builder, he started in his own backyard with Clean Up Sydney Harbour in 1989 and was sort of hoping a few of his sailing mates might turn out for the day. And he was ringing around the night before, and 40,000 Sydney-siders turned up to clean up their harbour and foreshores and parks and surrounds. So it was a wonderful collective effort from the community. And then the following year, it became a national program with Clean Up Australia. So we're now in our, this will be our 31st cleanup in March next year. And of course, we clean up all through the year. So we have our week of action with the cleanup day in the first Sunday of of March every year. And then we have business cleanup day and schools cleanup day that week prior. But all through the year, we support the community to clean up in areas that are important to them, where they feel that there are problems. So we provide those materials free of charge to the community and help them get out there and do their bit, which is a wonderful, wonderful collective effort with the community. So we love what we do.
Oh, amazing. And in Clean Up Australia's 2019 rubbish report, it showed that there was an increase in the amount of rubbish removed from the previous year. Based on your opinion, what factors do you think have contributed to Australia's waste increasing?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, we are one of the most wasteful nations in the world, the second most wasteful, second to North America. And I think, that comes down to our habits. We have this throwaway culture where we buy things and we throw them away. If you think back to how my grandparents lived, my grandparents lived through the Depression. So they were very much about, they appreciated the scarcity of resources and they repaired things. They bought things very carefully when they did buy something new, and they bought things to last. And when it did break, they repaired it and refurbished it and kept it circulating and alive. So we have, as things have become more mass produced and, we're bombarded with marketing messages across the board, across all consumer goods, that has influenced our habits. And whether it's electronics or fashion or food or furniture, we have this approach to, burning through our resources and really consuming so much and not necessarily thinking about the environment when we make those choices, and buying things that will endure and last and not be such a burden on the environment. But the great news with all of that is that we have so much power as a consumer to make those good choices and to really think about what we're doing. And we're seeing some great things happening across the board now, particularly in the field of fashion, where, we've seen fast fashion has such an impact on the environment. A lot of that fast fashion is made from synthetic materials, nylon, for instance, which takes 40 years to break down. So, fast fashion is designed for the consumer to buy more, the latest trend, keep buying it. It's not built to last. It's not made to endure, and much of it ends up in landfill. But we're seeing great, swapping and refurbing and, secondhand markets for fashion. So there's great innovation there and a willingness to adopt really good habits that have a more positive impact on the environment. So I hope that furniture and we can become accustomed to second-hand market, it becoming more mainstream across the board.
Sorry,
I think
it's
you've frozen there.
Yeah, it's just cutting out there. Let's check the internet connection. Are you still able to hear me? Oh. Are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, it's still cutting out. Let's just get my...
Hello?
Hi, yes, I can hear you a little bit. Is it... Are you able to hear me?
Hello? Old.
I think...
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear that. I think... Is it...
Oh, great. Yeah, you just froze. So I don't know. I was kind of rambling on about fast fashion and
Yeah, that was where I was up
economy.
to. Yeah, and then it just cut off and I was like, oh no. Hopefully it's all good now. Yeah, okay, it looks good.
So do you want me to go back? Should we start again? With
Yeah,
that
that'll be
question?
perfect, just in case. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I'll just go back so that I start the recording. I've got it on pause, so I'll just go back there.
Okay, perfect. I'll just check with producer. I think, yeah, it was cutting out a bit, but it seems to be fine now.
Oh, what's
So
cutting out?
hopefully, yeah.
What is it cutting out?
Like the video
Oh,
and
the video,
audio
maybe
just
it's just the
stopped.
internet
Yeah,
connection-
just thought I'd
connection.
check with the connection if it's
Okay.
yeah, all good.
It's all good now though?
Yeah, I think it's all fine now.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, perfect. Yeah, you can start from the beginning.
Okay, so you were asking the increase in rubbish and what factors do I think have contributed to that?
Yeah.
So as a nation, I think we need to address what we consume and how we dispose of it and be mindful of what we're buying. And certainly living through the pandemic, habits have changed enormously through 2020. So, where we were seeing great progress on things like using a reusable coffee cup rather than a takeaway coffee cup, and, not using takeaway containers and less packaging. That's been a challenge through 2020 because we've had, protective equipment like masks and gloves, and we've had changing consumer habits where we're eating more takeaway rather than eating in a restaurant itself, where many outlets didn't allow us to take our reusable coffee cup. So there've been challenges, but we have to stay true to the cause and continue to make those good choices that have a huge impact on our environment. And there's also a role for the government to play in that we need to look at the unnecessary and problematic plastics, single-use plastics that we consume, and that needs to be done across the board in every state and territory, and some have made better progress than others. So South Australia, Queensland, WA and the ACT have taken steps to eliminate those problematic plastics. New South Wales is taking a little bit longer, but we need to do that because it is a collective effort. As individuals, we can make good choices, but we do need policy that supports that and makes change that will filter through and have a really positive impact.
Yeah, definitely. And so we were talking before, in recent years, we've seen a rise in refurbishing, recycling and reusing as growing sustainability practices. However, there's often a perception that doing the right thing for the environment can be hard on your wallet. Would you agree or disagree with this, and why? In what ways is helping the environment actually save us money?
Look, buying only what you need and buying products that last ultimately the best thing you can do for the environment and for your back pocket. So, you know, it's tempting to buy two cheap products, for instance, like a $4 t-shirt and a $12 toaster, thinking that, you know, we're saving money. But ultimately, we're not saving money, because buying a lot of these mass-produced items that are cheaply made, they don't last. That they're not built to last. And then what happens to them at the end of their life? Well, they predominantly go to landfill. So it's about being really mindful about what we buy, only buying what we need, really thinking through what we actually need rather than impulse buying, and then buying things that are well made, ethically sourced and ethically made, and made to last.
Perfect. And could you please provide some examples of what steps consumers can take to reduce their waste?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we can do as individuals to reduce our waste, and whether that's you know, we love the quote at Cleanup that you don't need a handful of people doing waste perfectly. You need millions of people doing it imperfectly to make a change and have an impact. So, you know, whether we've had a great campaign through 2020 called Step Up to Cleanup. And that's about individuals making pledges about the changes they can make in their everyday life. So whether that's, and if you go onto our website at cleanup.org.au, you'll see some of them, and, you know, all ages and stages and nationalities of people are getting in there and making their pledges. And it could be, you know, I'm going to buy from the secondhand economy for my clothes for the next 12 months. I'm going to take my reusable coffee cup wherever I go. You know, as Australians, we use 1 billion disposable coffee cups a year. So there's an area where you can have a massive impact. Others are saying, you know, I'm going to say no to a single-use plastic water bottle and take my own. Others will refuse the single-use plastic straw and use a metal one, or go without a straw altogether. So it's about, you know, simple little steps we can each make that collectively have an enormous impact on our environment.
Perfect. Yeah, I saw that on your website and social media, and I thought that was really great, because that's definitely what we want to talk about in the podcast, that it's little things and they make a big difference.
Exactly. And don't feel overwhelmed. You know, just start with little things where you feel you can make an impact, and you know, pick the easy wins, like soft plastics, for instance. You know, a lot of Australians don't realise that they are recyclable. You know, 1 in 4 Australians don't know, but they are very easy to recycle. That's all the scrunchable plastics, like bread packaging, chip packets, confectionery wrappers, that sort of thing. So anything you can scrunch up that's plastic can be taken to your Coles or Woolies store and put into the red cycle bin there, and that they're made into new products like park benches and equipment. And, you know, that's a beautiful example of a resource. You know, my father always used to say, you shouldn't talk about waste. It shouldn't be waste. It's a resource. So that's how we need to think about it. We need to stop, you know, dumping stuff in landfill and thinking about there is no such thing as waste. It's a resource. Let's treat it like that. Let's think about this circularity and keeping things in perpetuity. So soft plastics is a great example that can go into that red cycle bin and be turned into new products, not going into landfill.
Great. And well, I know you mentioned a little bit, but could you please explain the key environmental benefits of reducing and reusing our waste?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many benefits. I guess it's as simple as thinking about reducing what we send to landfill. So in everything we do, in New South Wales, for instance, landfill is at capacity. So we've filled them all up. So we need to think about starting with, you know, avoiding. So only buying things we really need. So reduce what we're actually creating when it comes to waste. Reusing it, refurbishing it or repairing it, and then recycling as the last resort. So it's like a hierarchy. You know, you've got the avoidance and the reduction at the outset, recycling, and then landfill should be lower down in that hierarchy. So, when you think about food waste, for instance, half of what we put in our red bin is food waste. We shouldn't be putting any food waste in our bin. It should be, there's so many solutions for food waste, whether it's, a composting unit in your backyard. Not all of us have capacity for that, but there's little ones like the Bokashi bin that fits under your kitchen sink and it doesn't smell. You can have that in an apartment or a house. And then there's these wonderful things like share waste, where you can tap into a community where there might be someone with composting, and you can drop your waste there and they will use that and turn that into great fertilizer for their garden. So there's so many ways to reduce our impact, whether it's what we buy or what we do with our waste at the end of its life.
I know you mentioned before about how, and I came across this in my research as well, that, recycling shouldn't be the only step, and even in some cases should be the last resort when it comes to preventing waste going in the landfill. Could you expand on this and just explain why we shouldn't just stop at recycling and look at, reducing, reusing instead?
Yeah, and it comes down to those choices that we make. So, there's so many options now, increasingly, around recycled products. So not buying things made from virgin materials, for instance. So we're seeing it more and more in packaging. Unilever's done some great innovation there. They've got an IMO range that's made out of recycled packaging. So again, that concept that we've got resources that we've already pulled out of the earth, we need to reuse them rather than pulling new resources to make new things. So again, consumers can make have a lot of power there, because you can make the choices that send a message up that supply chain to the manufacturer of those goods that, well, I do care about this. I want to buy the goods that are using recycled materials and are not such a burden on our environment. And Cleanup's actually put together this great platform called Buy Recycled that we launched a month ago, and that's really a wonderful collection of across the board products and packaging that are made from recycled content, and it's free for a manufacturer to put their showcase their products there, but we do put them through a process of ensuring that they are making valid claims about those products. But it's a really nice opportunity for consumers to see what's out there and some of the great choices that are and ethical choices that are coming up.
Perfect. Well, that was all the questions I had, but I did want to ask, was there any other comments you'd like to share with our listeners?
I had so much more I was going to say, and I feel like
go ahead. No, definitely.
so quickly, but I think we've touched on most of it. We've touched on that secondhand economy where there's just such a great opportunity to. It needs to be become mainstream and destigmatized, really, like it's becoming with fashion. If you look at fashion, there's great sites like Depop and eBay and Etsy, and where you can buy recycled fashion, vintage fashion, and that's become more acceptable and trending, really. But that, if we can have that happening across all categories, electronic goods and furniture and a bike, whatever you're buying, that secondhand economy, it's a wonderful way to, it's great on your back pocket. You're not paying that premium for a new product, and you're preventing things from going to landfill. And sites like Gumtree, I mean, even if you've got something that's you feel that you've finished with it and it doesn't have a purpose in your life anymore, this wonderful community where you can put things on for free, even if you don't think it's got a commercial value. You list it and you're preventing something from going to landfill. So that's something I always get excited when I see it's council cleanup time and people rifle through and take items out of it, and I think, oh, fantastic, that's one less thing going to landfill and being wasted. So I think if we can think about how each of us can make those changes in our own daily life and reduce our impact, then again that collective effort can be huge.
Yeah, definitely. I've been so interested researching this topic, and we've also interviewed someone that is his company sells refurbished iPhones, and even it's got
Yeah.
me thinking like because my phone, I have a contract with Optus, and every 2 years they say you can upgrade to a new one. And it's just recently I've
Mm.
been like, no, I don't need a new one. It's working perfectly fine. It's just otherwise it's all going to waste. So it's been super interesting.
Oh,
And
good on you. You've bucked the trend. You've you've seen through the marketing and yeah, that's incredibly powerful. And there's brands like Dick Smith and JB Hi-Fi where they do refurbish electronic goods, and you can buy them with a warranty, but that's diverted from being waste, and it's found a
yeah.
new home.
Yeah, definitely. And because I used to live in Sydney and we were moving out, we just had to get rid of so much stuff. And it was great because the neighborhood, they just went through our stuff and they just, yeah, it was good. Like we didn't have to, throw it in the bin or anything. And yeah, and I know that's what you mentioned before. And it's definitely, yeah, it's a good way to
It
help the environment.
it's such a feel good thing, isn't it? When
Yeah.
you have found a new home for it, and yeah, if we could all think like that a little more, it would be a wonderful outcome.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Mm.
thank you so much again for taking the time. It's been so interesting listening to you. And we're really excited to feature you in the podcast episode. And
Oh, thanks so much. And we've got some great resources on the website for your listeners.
definitely,
If you want to have a look at cleanup.org.au, there's, whatever the topic, if it's, fast fashion, e-waste, whatever your area of interest, we've got great tips and some great blogs there that you can look through.
yeah, definitely. I definitely got a lot of like the statistics from your website. It was like the e-waste was so interesting. I had no idea.
Oh, I
Just
know.
yeah, and that I think
It,
it was yeah on your website you said 98% of the components inside TVs and computers are actually they can be recycled.
that's right.
Blew my mind.
And we're huge consumers of electronic goods in Australia, and it's globally it's the fastest growing stream of waste, and absolutely the case in Australia. It's growing, and we tend to have a lot of it sitting in our homes, but there are things we can do with that, and you can go to your council, look up on the website and see what your local council's policy is with waste, because there's so many. In my area, you can take your e-waste there, and it's recycled and responsibly dealt with. So don't put it in the bin. There's so many toxic substances in e-waste that can leach into the earth. So we've got to do the right thing with it. But as you've touched on, it can have a new life. Those resources can be used again in that whole concept of a circular economy. We don't want to throw out these valuable components. We want to reuse them and keep them cycling through.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Well, I will make sure that when the podcast episode's live, I'll send it to. I've got Nikki's email, so I can send it to her.
Great.
But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
that'd be
thank you
great.
so much.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Thanks.